Hey, Lori.
Hey,
Happy
Billy.
Friday.
Happy Friday. Guess where we are?
I believe we are where we are fellow members at one of our favorite local wineries here in Loomis, Casque Wineries. Kevin and the team here do a fantastic job.
Yes, and by the way, Loomis is on the border of Auburn and right off of Highway 80. You wouldn't even know it because all I hear is ladies chatting, actually. Little birds chirping in the pond behind us, and there's a little spinny wheel that's not going, but it's not
I'm,
a bad place. So here we are in the fall.
I'm always a little
Beautiful.
directionally challenged. So we are south of the 80 because we're straight off the 80 and we dead end into Horseshoe Bar and Auburn Folsom Road. I think that's south, but
We're east,
once again,
southeast, south.
yeah, if
Yeah,
you're
you're
heading into
south.
the forest, don't follow me.
You're
So
right, because
yeah,
I always say, let's go to Tahoe and head north, and I'm like, shit, that's east.
thank God for navigation apps, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right. So I'm glad that we're talking business today with our
yeah,
glass of wine,
yeah.
and I wanted to bring up living that rural lifestyle,
Love it.
which is where we are right now,
Well,
and country,
in the
open
country,
space, lots of land.
I think we're both on about the same, like five-ish, 5.5 acres, right?
Mhm. We've got five, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're about the same. Yeah, it's different. It's different. So, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, what's the good? What's the bad for people who maybe have always lived in subdivisions, condos, but that's their dream, thought of taking a leap because we didn't know. Like, what do you think?
I was a city girl, grew up in a beach town though, but still in the suburbs.
Yeah,
And what I love about where we live now, and I had to be convinced by my husband who wanted a more quiet atmosphere, is it is quiet. There's so much peace, very calm, very relaxed. We do have livestock guardian dogs, but I know that they have a job to do. They're not just barking to be butt heads. They're barking because they're protecting
right.
livestock, goats, chickens, ducks, sheep, and that's important if you live in the country. A lot of
Yeah,
people that might live around you will have that. And also, I hate to say it, I'm not a vegetarian. I eat meat, but I like to have meat that's local.
yeah,
And my neighbors raise local meat, and that's what I eat. It
love
keeps
it.
me healthy versus
Yeah,
having mass-produced meat, and that's an advantage of living in the country. Is I have access to that.
stuff that's not been subjected to pesticides or non-organic feed. Yeah,
Antibiotics,
right.
hormones. Really, do I want to eat a
No,
chicken that's grown,
yeah,
what, 3 weeks? What is it? 4 weeks? It's crazy.
I know. I think so. For us, one of the upsides is things you didn't expect. Like we have quite a few mission fig trees on our property,
Nice.
and so my son, my sophomore at Placer High, is turning into his his fall business, and he's got quite a loyal clientele that love organic figs. Just come right up to his farm stand, and that's so neat. I mean, I don't know about you, but my job when I was a teenager was not all that thrilling. I was pumping frozen yogurts.
I did that for a little
Did
while.
you?
I also worked at a
I don't
place
miss it.
called Pistol Pete's Pizza, Richardson, Texas, outside of Dallas. I had to wear a brown hat with a ball on it, a big old ball. It was brutal.
I
I,
bet. I
I was talking
bet.
about how it's quiet around here. I changed my mind.
Right.
All of a
Right.
sudden, I did this.
Yeah. So I definitely think, like to your point, peace and quiet. And if you have kids or you're thinking about kids, when we moved to the country, which was a little over 5 years ago, my kids were 8, no, 7, and 10. And I was telling you earlier, if I mention living in a subdivision or a condo, they look at me like I'm from outer space. And they go, no, 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 no. We'll only ever live on land. So it really is a different upbringing, a different lifestyle. But it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is a lot of work. It's totally worth it, though. I mean, you have to think about your water source is your own. You got to have a well,
Right.
or you don't have to, but you generally will have one. And then septic is your own. And you may be fortunate to have water rights from a company like NID, which is Nevada Irrigation District, if you're further north, or Placer County Water
Right.
Agency, PCWA. And that is huge. If you want to grow a vineyard, you want to have an orchard, or
Yeah.
you have livestock, you really need to have those in your back door.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a good thing to hone in on for a moment because NID, Nevada Irrigation District, for people that want acreage and you're gonna have to use a lot of water, if your property has access to it, it's gold. So where I live in Auburn, there is a culvert. The water comes down. We have a pipe coming off of it. It's the best deal ever. I mean, I think we pay about $1,000 a year. It's unlimited water. It's phenomenal. So water rights, riparian rights. I don't think that's changed through the generations, right? If you want acreage, water's probably top of the list. It's probably
Yeah,
most
I mean,
important.
if you don't look into that ahead of time, you could get in trouble with your other neighbors. You got to think about it. You can't just buy a property and think, oh, I have water. You just got to find out and use your realtor that's super knowledgeable in this type of field to help you. That would be me.
This lady
And
knows rural. Yeah, and I think too, part of the deal, gang, is that if you've ever owned, if you have owned property, if you've owned a townhome, a condo, single family home in a subdivision, and you chose not to get the home warranty, and maybe you got by just fine, maybe it was in your home. If you're in a rural area, you really want that home warranty because you have exposure to so many more things. Wells could have issues. You just
and
there's
septic could have
and
issues.
septic, and there's a lot of moving parts. Although I will say the funny thing about septic, as I find in real estate, is people hear that if you've only ever had city water or city sewer treatment, people freak out when they hear about septic, and it's really not that big a deal.
No, you really 7 to 10 years is your window, depending on how many people live in your house and the size of your house is when you would want to have an inspection or get it pumped. But I mean, 10 years, every 10 years, that's the max that
Yeah.
you should have it looked at. Not a big deal. And it can solve a lot of problems for you. Actually makes it easier.
I think it's like anything. If you maintain it,
Yeah,
you're not
you
gonna.
just got to maintain
If
it.
you let it go, yeah, it's gonna cost you a little more.
Right. And propane. A lot of us out here in the country have our own propane tanks. We have to call the propane company when it gets low and they come and fill it up. One thing that I notice for sellers, if you're watching this video, I would recommend if your husband is into power washing, why not step over to the propane tank and do a little power washing on it? Because there's so many that I've shown in Grass Valley, Auburn area that are filthy and they're just covered with moss. They look so bad. But if it was pristine and super shiny and a buyer comes and looks at your property, they're going to go, wow, this homeowner is looking at the maintenance and taking care of their home.
Right.
And it's impressive. And it is odd that men especially notice an ugly looking propane tank.
Yeah, right.
Check
right.
it out.
Well, and
that's just a suggestion.
And you guys, rural agents, it really is a niche skill. So lenders, real estate agents, they'll say, "Oh, I do everything." The reality is you can't be a master at everything, right?
Well, you're a master of none.
You're a master of none, as the expression goes. And so, with due respect to people that do garden variety subdivision type homes, there's just more expertise, and who better to hire than an expert that actually lives that life, like you do or I do, because we're experiencing it day to day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have no qualms about doing a suburban home. Sure, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like 100 times easier. More, I will not walk away from that.
We want to help those families.
Yeah. I feel like agents that don't know the rural properties, they should walk away and let tourist agents say, give it to us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm with you. Let's talk about something that I think people don't know about when they're buying a rural property, and it's defensible space, because that's a hot topic right now. So what have you experienced? What are your thoughts on that?
That is a really big deal for me. I don't. I'll just say I get really upset when realtors allow their clients to be in escrow and don't talk to them about a defensible space. Like you have to bring it up front, especially if someone comes from San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, there's parts of San Francisco where you have to watch out for fire,
right,
like Oakland Hills or Danville.
Sure. Yeah.
But in the city, people wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So California Fair Plan is a big thing out here, and all it is you've got to clear your space definitely 5 feet from the house. You can't have palm trees and Japanese maples right next to your house.
Yeah.
You can't have a tree overhanging your roof.
Yeah.
And it also brings critters too. You don't want
Sure.
them jumping off the roof from the tree. So you need someone to come and trim it. And if you're a seller, depending on where you want to look at, like Roby Point here,
Right on the canyon.
out in the canyon, a fire employee will come and evaluate the property, and they no longer will tell you what to do. They just educate you on what to do.
Right.
They were trying to tell you what to do, and they decided that's not our forte. We're overstepping some other professionals. So they just educate you on clearing shrubs, any dead debris. Don't put firewood against your house. Have it in a separate area. Yes, it does. It's no fun to go to get your firewood in the rain and the snow that lasts one day. But Grass Valley, it's a little longer. But keep your firewood further from the house. And if you have manzanita trees, that's not good. They burn. Eucalyptus trees burn super fast.
Right.
Pampas grass burns super fast.
Right. All these species that you didn't think about before, and it's the insurance is such a challenge right now where we live in Auburn and Loomis and Penryn and Colfax. We're seeing more and more insurers leaving the state, and people have to get fair plan. And Lori alluded to that once again. That is that catch-all that the insurance commissioner requires insurance companies to contribute when a public company like an Allstate, a State Farm, won't insure. And so that's really important. And I got to tell you, Lori, it still drives me crazy as a mortgage consultant where I'm not kidding. I'm still having people getting contract on a home, and I get to be the bearer of bad news and say, you have to get fair plan. No one will insure this home, and it's going to be 5 to 6x. And
you have to factor that in.
That's such a disservice. And I know you're good about that. I'm good about it, but I feel like the industry's still catching up, and people need to know that because, unfortunately, team, we don't see that going away. Wildfire risk is here to stay, at least from what we're seeing. So you do have to factor that in. Now you go down the hill, Roseville, Rockland, far and few between you're going to need that.
Not necessarily. I just sold a house in Lincoln, and I will say it's on the edge. It was a KB home near Wise Road, more rural, but still suburban. And the insurance, I think it was AAA, they required photos of the roof and wanted to see if there was any debris around the house, which, it was a KB home. Which is, there's nothing, just a few fruit trees and a couple little Japanese maples. But can I share a quick story?
Please.
So we used to live in the Bay Area, butt up against the Santa Cruz Mountains and Morgan Hill, and we had USA insurance because my grandfather was in the military. So I was super lucky to get access to USA, and they insured us. We became renters because we had lost our home in 2008, which was horrible. A lot of people did. And then we moved to Auburn. We just assumed with 5 acres of clear, fully irrigated pasture. And yes, we have 5 oak trees, but they're spread out. We do have coastal redwood, evergreen trees. And we have landscaping around the pool, but we have a pool, a pond. We have NID right above our property. That's a lot of water flowing right past our house and through our property, actually. And USA said, no, your zip code does not qualify for us to allow you to have insurance. Goodbye. And they canceled us. We were done.
I know you're preaching the choir. We had it at our prior home, and my dad, Vietnam vet, got us through USA. It's great. Love the premiums. And sure enough, bought the home out in the wine country in Auburn, and no interest. We don't, not no interest, but to your point, it's just insurance companies. What's happening, everyone, is they just take giant swaths. And if your zip code, your property's there's no conversation. They're just not going to insure it. So that is a challenge. But
well, that's where you get nitty gritty with California Fair Plan, and you have the surveyor come out. You have to be prepared. And one downside is if you have a lot of outbuildings on your property, they will kind of ding you for that and charge you a bit more because they're a fire risk. Because they have a roof, they're a structure, they're generally made of wood.
Burn.
We have a carport that's made of metal, not a big issue, but we have 2 little sheds next to it that are made of wood, where we keep our horse feed and all my horse, like my horse pharmacy, I like to say.
You
As a
know,
horse owner, I have a lot of horse
if
products.
I was at your house and a fire broke out, I'm jumping on Hot Wheels because I think that horse could take me to safety.
Well, yeah, he is 22, but okay.
I don't really ride. My sister was the horse owner, so that might not.
I think you might want to pick Don Quixote. He's a really fast trotter.
Great. So you and I will get the horses, and you're gonna throw me on the donkey. Super, super. Thanks, Lori.
We have Johnny Cash
Great.
too. He's a little mini.
You're gonna put me on the mini horse. Wow, my stock's really just plummeting right now.
No, he'll just come along. It's okay. You can put your clothes, your computer, and some food on the back of Johnny Cash, and he'll run along because he loves Hot Wheels. So he'll tag along.
So I know insurance is such a downer. So back to some of the upsides. You and I were talking about this earlier. Is there's so many possibilities when you're on acreage. So both Lori's family and my family, we have aspirations of building an ADU, which is an additional dwelling unit.
Yes.
And you can do that on acreage, and it's not necessarily building a home from scratch. You can take a tiny home and put it on a foundation, and you could rent it out to a long-term tenant, or you could do short-term rental like Airbnb, VRBO. And I think that's so huge because people want to have additional streams of income, and it's so much easier when you have your own land. It's such a game changer.
It is, and in Placer County and Nevada County, but I know more about Placer County. They actually have on their website ADU plans, and they will give you a permit like that if you do it their way, of course. If you want to do all these funky wild things, it might take a little longer, but they're still going to give you a permit. And they have plans for a junior ADU. You can build one above your garage, one attached, one separate. And what they do is they look at your land, the size of your house, and they will tell you exactly what size your ADU could be. But overall, the max is 1,200 square feet.
Max is 1,200, and this is amazing. I learned this recently.
Oh, by the way, that is a additional dwelling unit. Some people don't know what ADU is, so go ahead.
No, I was over at the county just a couple weeks ago, and what I learned was I can convert my garage to a junior ADU. So I can convert that. I can rent that out. Plus, I can build an additional unit, an additional separate detached unit. So I can have two sources of income on my primary residence. And so I feel like that's part of the potential magic of owning a property on acreage. And the good thing is if you're going, well, what if they change that? We're just going more in that direction. I mean, the governor of the state of California, they've mandated that we need to maximize acreage because we have a housing crisis. Look at all the developments we're seeing where they're requiring builders to build up, not out.
Yes.
Density housing.
Yes.
So I think this is only going to get more lenient and more accommodating to people that are on acreage. So definitely something to consider if you're thinking about a home on a couple acres or more.
Yeah, and I will. Something reminded me of this. When you live out here, you tend to have an oak tree on your property. Yes. Did you hear that big bang? Boom! Right over there, it fell on that wine barrel. It was an acorn.
Okay.
If you have a husband that has no hair, you should recommend that he wears a hat at all times because Nigel, my husband, got hit by an acorn and it actually caused a little wound on his head.
Good to know.
So that's just a little warning for those of you that would like to live in a rural property.
I did not know
Came
that.
in and showed me his head, and I'm like, oh my God, helmet? Like, should wear a helmet all the time on the property? I'm like, let's just start the hat at all times.
In the timeless words of Johnny Carson, Lori, I did not know that. I did not know that.
You, Billy, have hair, so you might be okay.
Well, my wife might argue that that's a diminishing commodity. So, it is what it is.
Do we have any light left here? Okay, we should stop. So the point of this whole video is we would love for you, if you got this far, to subscribe to my channel, Discover Auburn. And I'm Lori McIntosh with eXp Realty, and this is Billy Cunningham.
With Aslender Billy.
Yes, and he has the best email address and website.
You can follow me on Instagram at Aslender Billy. And don't be discouraged about buying rural. If you have a heart and an aspiration for it, talk to us because we love it. And I don't know about
totally
you, Lori,
worth it.
but now that I've done it, there's no looking back.
Oh no, I cannot live with anyone next door to me. They must be far, far away.
Have a
I
great
love
weekend.
feeding the horses in my boxers. There you go.
Have a great weekend.